Warning: this program may contain visuals that might offend sensitive viewers. Parental guidance is advised.
In September last year, the City of Cape Town Council approved the new Unlawful Occupations bylaw and made updates to the Streets, Public Places and Prevention of Noise Nuisance bylaw. What do the new laws mean for those occupying city buildings and those living on the streets of the mother city?
Say your master, why you taking photos here?
Law enforcement always come here and take our things away from us.
So at the same time that they were telling people to get off the streets and go to shelters, they were putting people on the street.
You are either not rich enough, you are either not white enough, you are not privileged enough to benefit and to appreciate what is this.
No one really knows the exact number of homeless people in Cape Town. However, observers and service providers agree that the number is on the rise as more and more people lose their livelihoods as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. 54-year-old Carolyn has experienced homelessness for most of her adult life. This pavement, which is around the corner from the Parliament of the Republic, has been her home for about 30 years. She lives here with her family.
The first thing, the second thing, the third one is my son and his girlfriend, and me and my dog. And that is my neighbor, Daphne and Daryl.
Although she doesn't have a roof over her head in the traditional sense, it is interesting to see how organized her life is here on the pavement.
This is my drum. I put all my washing clothes in when I come to wash, my blankets. And this is blikkies scarreling for some money, for some food. Blikkies pick up down, and we take it to the scrapyard. Inside is my bed and my clothes inside, my case, everything, my clean washing, my duvet covers, everything, and my toiletries.
Amongst other things, the bylaw has been amended to disallow sleeping on the streets, and anyone found doing this will be offered alternative shelter. However, if they refuse this, they're then committing a criminal offense. But why would anyone choose sleeping in the streets over a shelter?
I want to stay there because you see when you go in there, they're nice with you. Sometimes they're nice with you in that you come into the night shelter, your name, everything. You get disability, right? Now, they see you get disability, now they pull the half of 800 and something from your disability. Why? Because the places is free to stay. What are they doing with the money? I haven't got every day to rob people and then go to the night shelter, no. The first time I go to the night shelter, it was all right. But every day to pay 20 rand is not all right. The food was not so nice that time I was there, but now the food is all right. But I don't want to stay there because I'm not a bandit. Because I used to the street, standing late up, make my place clean, early bird in 6 o'clock, you must be in 5 o'clock. No, I don't like that. And a lot of things I see, they don't treat the people like there.
The City of Cape Town and the homeless community have always had a confrontational relationship, many accusing the city of criminalizing the poor.
One day I come here on my birthday, the 18th of the 7th one. He's taking pictures with this guy, so I was sitting outside. I said, Jay, I was the kid. I said, Jay, your master, why are you taking photos here? You just want to be right. We don't know what's our situation on the street. One day he didn't come and ask if he was so, how you say, the thing, what's name? You said, he's the minister of something. If he was, come out to us, man, and tell us, how do you sleep? What you want? You see? Have you got food? Come and buy you some food. I will not give you money. That's my heart to belong from. But what? He's a witchcraft because he's doing anything but he follow very, very dangerous. Because I don't like him because he used to come and take the things and it's not like old people.
There are as many reasons why people are homeless as there are homeless people.
My name is Stephanie Pillay and I'm formerly from Durban. So I relocated to Cape Town 5 years ago. Due to my sexual orientation, I was actually rejected by my family. So that's how I found myself in the city of Cape Town, which is much more understanding, especially with people of my gender. However, it's not been a very easy journey with the law enforcement. Basically coming and removing all our stuffs and our personal belongings, such as your ID, which is, like a legal it's like a legal document, so not anyone can get hold of your ID.
So long ago, our parents were faced with this at the hands in the apartheid era. We don't want to bring up apartheid all the time, but this is what it is. It's a reverse psychology of apartheid. It's still there. The mindset of our DA-led is apartheid. So this is where it all boils down to. You are either not rich enough, you are either not white enough, you are not privileged enough to benefit and to appreciate what is this. Why can't we benefit from this? Why not?
Various communities in the city of Cape Town are illegally staying on government-owned land and buildings. This is often referred to as an occupation. We visited one such community in Woodstock. They have occupied the abandoned Woodstock Day Hospital and renamed it the Sissy Ghoul House.
The passage that we are entering here now, most of the Albert Road evictees stay on this floor. This is one of the Albert Road evictees. This is Valdela. She was one of the families that was evicted with myself. This one here too is this lady Tilly. This was also one of the Albert Road evictees. She moved into this space, made it a home, and also created a little spaza shop. Can they come in, please?
Fahmida Ling was one of the first to occupy space here after she was evicted from Albert Road in Woodstock.
So this is just one means of survival and also rendering a service to everyone else that stays here. They don't have to go outside to go and buy bread, creating job and creating something to sustain herself as well. Yeah, this is Tilly. That's her husband sitting there. So this is their little home. Yeah.
Thanks for that.
We have communal kitchens, communal toilets. Each one don't have a toilet of their own or a kitchen of their own. Some of them created a little space inside their homes also to cook food. This is, as you can see here, it also serves as a little laundromat where they do their washing, but everyone comes to this point to get some water. All of them, yeah, they get the water from there. We moved in here out of sheer desperation. I raised my children here. They went to school here. They went to church here. Everything was here. This place was empty. What was the plans of the city for this place? For 22 years, it has been empty. Now you tell me, there are many other buildings like this. Why can it not be redeveloped into homes? Why can it not be redeveloped?
And why do you think,
So,
what do you think the answer to that is?
Because it's not for the poor and working class.
some of the community members here lost their homes when the buildings they used to live in were torn down and replaced with newer, sleeker ones, which they cannot afford.
Because of skyrocketing rentals also, other people also lost their homes. Because of gentrification, people lost their homes. They could not keep up with the Jonases. They could not afford anything anymore.
It's striking that majority of the households here are made up mostly of women and children.
Yaba khona nje ingxabano nje endinayo kunye nomlingane wami. So ke ngoku enda pha ndingumuntu ofuna indawo yohlala, understand? So ndangumuntu ke ngoku omane ehlala phandle until ndade ndafumana apha uba kukho imeeting ezihambayo pha, then uba ufuna indawo yohlala ungayocela pha kwii-leaders zalapha, then zizokwazi uba zikubone, then uattend ii-meetings, then nam ndenza kanjalo.
Women, such as Umama Nosisi Manji, know the crudeness of not having a roof over your head.
Beka nje i-box, then ulale, ube right uvuke ngengomso kwindawo endandimane ndingqungqa kuyo ne, ndihambe ndiye apho ndifike ndihlambe ndibe right, then ndivuke ke ngoku ndihambe ndiphangele ke ngoku.
The city of Cape Town's persistent attempts at evicting residents, such as those of Sisi Gul House, threatens their security of tenure and creates uncertainty.
Ngoku ndilapha ke ngoku ndiva ndihappy kakhulu, kangangokuba ndingava kabuhlungu xa kunothiwa siyahamba uba ndizawuhamba ndibheke ngaphi, and ke ngoku ndinabantwana and abantwana baxhomekeke kum bonke, yebo. So andiyazi ndingava kabuhlungu nyhani, because le indawo yiyona ndawo ndiye ndaqonda into yokubana yiyona ndawo i-right for mna.
The city is constitutionally bound to find alternative accommodation for evictees. But what exactly is alternative accommodation?
They want you out of the inner city. We are thorns in their sides, so they need to get rid of the thorns, throwing us in outskirts like Wolverine, Blikkisdorp, Kampies. People live like, you know what, a tin of sardines, tinned fish, like that they were living. I mean, really now. There was no police station, no lighting at the time, no tarred roads, no toilets. Toilet inside, which you had to flush in the bucket outside, which was emptied once every month. Many of our people were chronic patients that was evicted. No hospitals was even close by. Ambulances refused to come there. So if you had an asthma attack or something, you just had to wait to die.
Residents believe that the city's unlawful occupations bylaw violates their constitutional rights.
Overriding the Constitution, going around the PI Act, which clearly states that you cannot evict people without a court order. That is what the PI Act is all about. And here you're implementing this bylaw, doing exactly the opposite of what the PI Act stands for. Going against the Constitution, going against the rights of humans, the rights of us. In that Constitution, it clearly states you cannot be displaced, or you must have a roof over your head. You cannot be deprived of a home. We have public spaces here, about 11 public spaces. Why can't they redevelop? Why can't they develop on those public lands instead of selling it off to private property moguls in order for them to build and redevelop whatever they want to redevelop on there? Our land, our public land. What about the people here? We've been facing homelessness since forever.
Karen Hendricks, a chapter leader with Reclaim the City, an NGO that agitates for housing rights of the poor and working class communities, say they will compel the city to fulfill their responsibility to provide affordable housing in the inner city.
The reason that we came to occupy this space, other than being evicted due to gentrification, was to use the occupation as a tool to hold the city to account, to build affordable housing, particularly on this site, because this is one of the 11 sites which is earmarked for affordable housing since 2017.
The coming into being of the updated bylaws has elicited varied responses from across the sector, from activists as well as service providers.
The Unlawful Occupations Bylaw contravenes the PI Act. And the PI Act is the Prevention of Illegal Evictions Act of 1998. It contravenes the PI Act because the PI Act states that no one should be evicted without a court order. The Unlawful Occupations Bylaw gives the city officials the right to constitute or decide what a home is. And so for occupiers living here, it is a threat to us because this is the only home that people have had for the past 3 to 4 years.
U-Turn is an NGO that helps the homeless exit homelessness. Rowan Revira Bawa, their Chief Communications Officer, says that the provision of shelter is only one part of ending homelessness.
So we know that we can't have people erecting structures or lighting fires wherever they want. You have to have bylaws to function as a city. And we appreciate the city amending the bylaws to consider the fact that you have individuals who are in a situation that they cannot change by themselves. So the amendment is heading in the right direction, but we do also want the city to now go further. So when the city says that they need to offer a reasonable alternative of shelter, what do they mean by that? They need to define what that means. 2 beds in series when the person is based in observatory is not a reasonable alternative. And can we please ensure that there's a social intervention attached to the shelter so that it's not just a bed for the night, but there's a rehabilitation program attached to it and skills development program attached to it that's tracked and rigorous with outcomes being monitored.
Formerly homeless himself, Carlos Mesquita, now an activist for the social housing of homeless people, says that the city's approach to homelessness needs to be a lot more nuanced.
A shelter is a shelter is a shelter. So whether you are aged, whether you are disabled, whether you are gay, lesbian, LGBTQI, whether you are a wet alcoholic, a dry alcoholic, a drug addict that's using, a drug addict that's recovering, you basically put into the same dormitory. If you're male, same dormitory if you're female. There's no couples allowed, there's no animals allowed.
We visited the Haven Night Shelter and Retreat. Hassan Khan, the CEO, showed us around and told us about their approach towards ending homelessness.
We will not tolerate a drug user to openly use drugs. And when confronted with it, we have a process that it includes destruction of the drugs. Right? It doesn't automatically trigger a police response because the person is dealing with it. But we will not tolerate persons selling drugs. That triggers a police response immediately. And you can't have one person allowed to sell or use drugs on a facility while 10 others are trying to beat the habit.
The successful model that's working overseas at the moment and that we looked at was the Housing First, which changed the main thing, besides the fact that the old model says rehabilitation before accommodation. Our model says accommodation before rehabilitation. Because there's no way that anybody on the streets is going to give up what keeps them alive on the street and what keeps them, it might kill you eventually, but on the street it feels as if it keeps you alive, it keeps you awake because you can't fall asleep, otherwise they steal your stuff, all that type of thing. And so to ask somebody to first rehabilitate before you accommodate them is, if somebody promises that to you out of desperation, which I'm sure some people would, ultimately they're going to go back on their word and you're going to feel disappointed by them, but in actual fact it's you that's disappointing them.
The Haven Shelter is not your home. right? It's a well fitted out resting space. It's like an airport, right? You are there because you have a flight to catch. When your plane is ready to go home, we expect you to be on it. So that is an important consideration. We do charge people. We charge them 15 Rand a day or 1 hour of labor. So money doesn't keep you out of the system.
The bylaws had just been adjusted and they'd been enacted, it went through. That same week, I was inundated with people coming to me from the safe spaces, which are the accommodation facilities that the city, not the provincial government, but the city actually runs. And there were 300 odd eviction notices between the 3 safe spaces. So at the same time that they were telling people to get off the streets and go to shelters, they were putting people on the street.
The city of Cape Town rejects allegations that its bylaws criminalize the poor or the homeless.
So the bylaw does not criminalize homelessness, full stop. The city updated its bylaw to say that before any of this even happens, before you are issued with a pre-compliance notice, a compliance notice, a fine, before any of that happens, what needs to happen? You must be offered access to a shelter. You have the choice to accept access into a shelter or in a safe space. But before we even get there, please, let's not forget everything that happens before then. Our social development 3-people team have at least 6 engagements with homeless communities, with homeless individuals, long before our uniformed officials come into play here. Our social development teams do a number of things. They identify vulnerable homeless communities, they engage with these vulnerable individuals, they establish relationships with these individuals, hoping to appeal for them to access the social development support. And what does the support include? It includes access to our free matrix rehabilitation centers.